Hello, good evening, beloved. We are going to take a look back at the message that we shared on Sunday, and that is living beyond the clock. And this time around, I've just tweaked the title to say, time is short, legacy is long. And we did look at the concept of the tyranny of agency. That the problem that we have in the world today is that we are highly sick. What that means is that we are always short of time in terms of what we are doing. Our focus is on how much time we have and not what time it is. And we see that how much time is a question of quantity, whereas how much time or what time it is a question of quality. And that is the difference. We looked at our core scripture, which was Ephesians 5:15 to 16, which reads, redeeming the time because the days are evil. And we see from this concept that God lives in eternity, but He does visit us in time, which is, in other words, our chronos. So God, when He visits, He interrupts our chronos. That is what we call the kairos moment. So that is the God time. And there are these two kinds of clocks of time that we defined and talked about. The first one was chronos, which is the sequential time. And we measure that in days, hours, and so on. And then there is what we call the kairos time. And that is the God time, which is the opportune time, window of opportunity. And that's the time when God intervenes or interrupts our chronos suddenly. Normally it's a sudden interruption. And there's this constant tension between the chronos and the kairos. And we just need to be more sensitive to the kairos time of God. And that is when we are busy in the grind, in the everyday life, we should be aware that God can interrupt our schedule at any time. And that interruption normally brings forth transformation in our lives. We'll look at a couple of examples in the Word where God interrupted the schedule of the people on earth. One of those examples we see is that of Joseph. Joseph spent a long time in prison, which was the kairos moment. And one day God stepped into that kairos moment when Pharaoh needed these dreams to be interpreted. And that's when they called out for Joseph to be released from prison and go to the palace. And we see in that story that in one day, Joseph moved from prison to the palace, and he became the second in charge in a foreign country of Egypt in one day, after having spent so many years in the chronos or in prison. And we learn a few things from that example, that we need to be faithful in the mundane, as we are told in 1 Chronicles 12:32. As we are faithful in the ordinary, in the daily grind, and we remain sensitive to the Spirit, then we can tell the times and the seasons, like the children of Issachar did. And when that kairos moment is upon us, then we'll be able to respond accordingly. And we also learn that you can never schedule a kairos moment. As we said earlier, it may come upon us in a sudden manner. And we see an example of this in the lives of the sisters Mary and Martha. We see that Martha was busy in the kairos, serving the Lord, and wanted to ensure that the Lord had a meal on time. That is all to do with kairos. Whereas Mary decided to sit at the feet of the Lord and to learn of the Lord. That was a kairos moment. And that's a moment that we need to get our transformation. And then we see that another habit that we need to develop is that of prayer and fasting. If we are to move and recognize our kairos moments. We see in Nehemiah 1:4 how that Nehemiah set aside time to fast and pray before the kairos moment came. And that preparation led to that kairos moment when he appeared before the king. So that was another advantage that we see in terms of, Nehemiah living out that kairos moment. As we conclude on this aspect, we see that it is important to not just count our days, but to make our days count. And we are told in Amos 9 verse 13 that God can make the harvest come so fast that the reaper overtakes the plowman. He can redeem the years you have lost in a single moment. And that is what the kairos moment is about. It's, in other words, it's getting God's speed in doing things. So there may be a situation that you struggled with in the chronos for a while. But when the kairos moment comes upon you, that situation is resolved in no time at all. And this is a key difference between the kairos and the chronos time. And the chronos time is like God, who lives outside of the time spectrum, coming into our time zone or in our time spectrum and changing things, changing the affairs of things. So that is what we call the kairos moment. And we'll just maybe need to ponder on those thoughts some more in terms of how we can align our lives as we live daily in the chronos time, so that we are ready at any moment to allow God to break through our schedules, our calendars, and bring the kairos moments in our lives. God bless you. Until next time. Bye-bye.